Hello, you all. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on which time you are watching this video. I am Ruben Ramos, and this is another asynchronous class on superhero comic book reading in nowadays society. Before we actually start, I'd like to point out two things. First, I apology to you all because this video was supposed to be released yesterday for the current asynchronous class. Sadly, I had to take a round trip to Brasilia back and forth, and it took me the entire day. That's why I wasn't able to prepare and make the video available until now. Hope you can all forgive me for that and watch this video as soon as possible, especially for tomorrow, our synchronous class. Secondly, on a sad note, I would like to pay my respects to the cartoonist Kino, who has passed yesterday. For those of you who are unfamiliar, or might still be unfamiliar with who he is the father of Mafalda and her crew, and a very respectful cartoonist for all that matter. It was a very sad day for any comic book enthusiast and lover, and that's why this class, and I believe tomorrow one as well, is dedicated to Kino. Without further ado, I would like to restart from the place where we've stopped, which is page 80. And we were establishing some comparisons, but most of all, some differences between Western comics, both European and or American, versus Eastern comics, mostly in Japan. So, as MacLeod is stating, he believes there's something a bit more fundamental to this particular East versus West split. I remember we stopped here with MacLeod at the beginning of a path, but I urge you all to pay close attention to how rich and detailed the path is. On a single frame, MacLeod is about to start on a path, and we have the entire perspective of a possible way in which he's gonna walk to. Where was I? Oh, yes. Traditional Western art and literature don't wonder much. On the whole, we are a pretty goal-oriented culture. But in the East, there is a rich tradition of cyclical and works of art. That's a major difference between Eastern and Western countries or comics, better speaking. And we have one example right over here. This detailed image is way much more than goal oriented. In here, we have an entire perspective unfolded to us. And if you stop a second to think about it, it kind of enriches the reading, the interpretations, and it makes us wonder on a bunch of things. maybe which way MacLeod is actually going to take. Maybe what's MacLeod actually doing over there, since he is being depicted so far as a Western character, among others. Japanese comics may be heirs to this tradition in the way they so often emphasize being there over getting there. Through these and other storytelling techniques, the Japanese offer a vision of comics very different from our own. For in Japan, more than anywhere else, comics is an art of intervals. The idea that elements omitted from a work of art are as much a part of that work as those included has been a specialty of the East for centuries. In the graphic arts, this has meant a greater focus on figure, ground, relationships, and negative space. For those of you who are wondering, that picture is the Great Wave. Sorry about that. The Great Wave of Kanagawa by Hokusai, circa 1829. Turn this picture upside down to see the other wave of negative space. Nature yin yang. I'm not sure if I can roll it, but I believe you guys can. So you try that exercise when you have the opportunity. It might be interesting. In music too, while the Western classical tradition was emphasizing the continuous connected worlds of melody and harmony, Eastern classical music was equally concerned with the role of silence. You can pretty much understand the difference between cadence in West versus East when we take a look and we understand this frame and this story. Again, according to MacLeod's theory, this is not a comic book, this is. In the last century or two, I believe we should go to two since this is the 21st century, as Western cultural influences swept the East, so too have Eastern and African ideas of fragmentation and rhythm swept the West. From Debussy to Stravinsky to Count Basie, Western music has gradually incorporated a strong awareness of the power of fragmentation and intervals. This is a nice story. In the visual arts, the impact of Eastern ideas was both powerful and lasting. The traditional emphasis in Western art upon the primacy of foreground subjects and continuousness of tones gave way to fragmentation and a new awareness of the picture plane. What do you think this painting by all hell is called? It's the simplest name that could be. Any ideas? Well, since this is an asynchronous class, I will tell you that picture is called the Big N. as the letter N. Does it resemble the letter? You tell me on our next class. In theater, the idea that less is more has real practical implications. One of the most successful shows in history is The Fantastics, a play whose entire set came in 3 pieces: a tattered banner, a stick, and a cardboard moon. The mastery of any medium using minimal elements has long been considered a noble aspiration. Here's a story. Promise me you won't drink and drive, Carl. I promise. Well, it's getting late. I better go now. I seem to have lost my keys. Can I borrow yours? Okay, they're in my purse. Thanks. Slam. Brum, brum. Darn, traffic slow down. I'll take a shortcut. Here I am. I hope Daisy is ready. Ding dong. Hi, Carl. Hi, Daisy. I'm sorry, Carl, but I can't go out with you tonight. Aww. How about tomorrow night? Okay. Tomorrow it is. What will I do now? I know, I'll rent a video. I always wanted to see this one. $3.50 please. Here you go. Say, do you know Bill's last name? Bill who? That's what I'm asking you. I don't know any Bills. Okay. Have a nice day. Choo. I'll buy some beers. One beer won't hurt. Glug, 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 glug. Crash. And we have the end of the story. Kind of sad, isn't it? Here's a story. Promise me you won't drink and drive, Carl. I promise. Broom. Here I am. Hi, Carl. Hi, Daisy. I'm sorry, Carl, but I can't go out with you tonight. Aw. What will I do now? I'll buy some beers. Glug, glug, glug. Crash. And the end. Here's a story. Promise me you won't drink and drive, Carl. I promise. Glug, glug, glug. Crash. The art of comics is as subtractive an art as it is additive. Promise me you won't drink and drive, Carl. I promise. So, on those 4 different and at the same time equal or the same story, we do understand and we are able to go through the story to see that the beginning and the end is the same. But there are, in this example, 4 different ways of approaching a storytelling regarding comics, at least. Nevertheless, we all can understand that despite story number 1, 2, 3, or 4, there is a drink and driving accident and fatal death at the end. Therefore, this proves that there is there are different ways in which we can approach a story, or that a story can be told, even on comics, or even in comics, I'm sorry. And finding the balance between too much and too little is crucial to comics creators the world over. To strike that balance, creators regularly make assumptions about their readers' experiences. Some seem pretty safe, like the assumption that this will be perceived by audiences as an eye closing. Safe, that is, if the audience doesn't read right to left. We assume as readers that we will know what order to read panels in, but the business of arranging those panels is actually quite complex. So complex, in fact, that we even seasoned pros will sometimes blow it. As closure between panels become more intense, reader interpretation becomes far more elastic, and managing it becomes more complicated for the creator. Some artists deliberately ambiguous, of course, and offer us no strike interpretation to go on. Closure can be a powerful force within panels as well as between them, when artists choose to show only a small piece of the picture. Comics can be maddeningly vague about what it shows us. By showing little or nothing of a given scene and offering only clues to the reader, the artist can trigger any number of images in the reader's imagination. Readers faced with panels like these will have substantially different interpretations. By constructing whole images based on these fragments, readers are performing closure just as whoosh, slip, slip, ding dong, just as readers complete an action or idea between oh, oh, ding, ding. I say just as readers complete an action or uh-oh, stop that, ding, ding, oh, ding, ding, oh. Whatever the mysteries within each panel, it's the power of closure between panels that I find the most interesting. There's something strange and wonderful that happens in this blank ribbon of paper. We already know that comics asks the mind to work as a sort of in-betweener, filling in the gaps between panels as an animator might. But I believe there's still more to it than that. Let's take another look at the fifth type of transition, the one so popular in Japan. Here's a 4-panel establishing shot of an old-fashioned kitchen scene. Chop, chop, chop. Now, most of you should have no trouble perceiving that you are in a kitchen from those 4 panels alone. With a high degree of closure, your mind is taking 4 picture fragments and constructing an entire scene out of those fragments. But the scene your mind constructs from those 4 panels is a very different place from the scene constructed from our traditional one-panel establishing shot. Look again. You've been in kitchens before. You know what a pot on the boil sounds like. Do you only hear it in that first panel? And what about the chopping sound? Does that only last a panel or does it persist? Can you smell this kitchen, feel it, taste it? Comics is a monosensory medium. It relies on only one of the senses to convey a world of experience. But what of the other 4? We represent sound through devices such as word balloons. But all in all, it is an exclusively visual representation. Within these panels, we can only convey information visually. But between panels, none of our senses are required at all. Which is why all of our senses are engaged. And we will learn more about that tomorrow on our Synchronous class. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.